why don't I feel the same? Why do I not have energy levels? Why the heck am I so inflamed and bloated? Right? I want to feel like myself. Why do I have brain fog? And they always, they always feel like I'm doing everything the same. I haven't changed anything. What is going on with my body? Where would you start if you were me 5 years ago, right? Like utterly clueless, feeling like utter crap. That was what started my whole journey is I feel terrible and I hate it. It was mom guilt was so bad. Foundational rocks in our jar. What do you
Yeah.
think those would be the biggest dial movers for people that's like, you must start here, then look at the smaller things?
Yeah. So I always say to people, if you are starting your journey, think about what you add in before what you take away.
Hey, it's your coach, Jess Gunn, and the host of the Stronger You podcast, where we cut out all the noise and we get honest talking about what really matters to us. We'll chat about everything from how you feel about yourself to all things food and exercise, and also how to best navigate our sometimes crazy days as we focus on doing our best to create a strong mind and body so that we can feel, move, and look our best. I really hope you enjoy this episode.
All right. This is one of the topics I've been most excited to talk about because it's something that all of us deal with. Oh my gosh, there's a long list of things I want to talk about with nutrition, sugar cravings, what we eat, how it impacts your body, how we can move, feel, and look a little bit better. And as I was thinking about the very best person, the expert that I feel like understands not only what is this food, what does this movement do, what produces these energy levels, hormone levels, perimenopause, menopause, all the things that can kind of seem so overwhelming. The one person that I felt like was the best expert to come in and share her thoughts with this, because it's not just somebody online that's, read a few posts, but really understands all of these different topics because they're real, right? When we don't feel great, we don't move and interact, we don't show up as our best self. And so we've got who I feel is my guest expert on pretty much all these topics, Jennifer Hanway. So welcome today. And thank you for sharing your time with us.
Hi, Jazz. Of course, I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So my main thing is because this is an issue every woman deals with. Every one of those topics, I feel like
Mhm.
we experience in and out of we figure it out and then our body changes and kind of says like an F you. Like you thought you figured it out. Guess what?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't. Now it's all different. And so if this isn't something you're struggling with, I guarantee a woman has a friend, a best friend, a sister, or a mom that's going through some of these topics. And so I would love to be able to kind of pick your brain and help women not only be educated, because I feel like it's what you know is what really helps you understand and
Mhm.
navigate a situation, but alternatives to do things a little differently. And so I would love, will you share for a second? I mean, I know you're wonderful. We've worked together. I've known you for a while. Tell everybody what you do, how you've come upon this,
Yeah.
what you specialize in, and why they've got to stay tuned in today to listen to your answers with these topics.
Sure. So I have been in the health and wellness industry for 19 years, which makes me feel very old, but also very experienced.
Yes.
I am an ex-professional dancer turned fitness instructor turned nutritionist. So that's a long backstory. We'll chat about that another time. But I came into this as a lot of us do, wanting to change my own health. And I really don't believe this is, I don't believe this is coincidence. I believe a lot of this come into this industry because of it. So I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and I was skinny fat. Now this was the era of boutique fitness classes. And I was part of the team that opened the first ever bar studio in London. So this was the era of like Class Pass and Physique 57 and that sold out class
Yep.
at Soul Cycle. I was in that era. And I was an instructor, ex-dancer. I'm also a personal trainer, exercise to meet all of the things. But I never felt I was struggling with really bad gut health. I was struggling with anxiety. I was struggling with depression. My periods were all over the place. Like you name it, as a woman in her early 30s, I was dealing with it. Now, the woman that I was working for at the bar studio happened to be something called a biosignature modulation practitioner. So I know you have coaches that listen to this. So this is old school. If you know someone called Charles Poliquin, he was one of the kind of godfathers of strength and conditioning. But he had a theory about hormones and nutrition and et cetera, et cetera. And that was the first certification I ever did. And that really taught me more about, yes, food is fuel, but food is also information for the body. And food tells your body what to do. Food tells your hormones what to do. So it helped me improve my health And then I was like, okay, this is great, but I want more because online certifications are wonderful. But I was like, okay, I can work to a certain level, but I want to go deeper in this. So this is when I went back to university in London to study for a nutritional science degree. And that's when I got really into the science of, specifically for women, the science of metabolism, the science of gut health. That's how I kind of started. Then, as I got older, I'm 44 now, my clients aged with me as well. So, when I was in my 20s and 30s, guess what? I'm working with women in their 20s and 30s. As I'm getting into my 40s, the women that I work with the doctor that I partner with, the clients that are coming to me, they're in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And actually, the majority of my women are 55 plus. Now, this also coincided with me being asked to sit on a board for Versali, which is Johnson & Johnson's menopause health platform. So this was my, okay, this is now time to dive into perimenopause and menopause health. And this was a couple of years ago now. So this was before, menopause is the new black. This is before all of this came into it. So as part of being on that board of experts, and I'm the only non-medical member of that board of experts, I really had to dive into the science of what happens to our metabolism over the age of 35. So premenopause, perimenopause, the different stages of perimenopause, because it can last for up to 10 years. It's not just one thing. What happens in menopause? Now your needs change in postmenopause as they do to perimenopause. And that's really where I find myself today, is working with women with blood sugar balance, increasing their protein. I won't say balancing their hormones because that's not the right terminology, optimizing their hormones, helping them with these huge hormonal shifts that happen in our 40s, 50s, and 60s.
You just covered every woman's problems.
There we go.
We got 10 podcasts coming out of those topics. Because it is when we deal with these women, and as we're talking about it, when we get questions online, it's every one of those. Help me understand my body, right? Why don't I feel the same? Why do I not have energy levels? Why the heck am I so inflamed and bloated? Right? It's I want to feel like myself. Why do I have brain fog? And they always feel like I'm doing everything the same. I haven't changed anything. What is going on with my body? And like we were saying before, I don't feel like there's a really great place to go and get that information with people that have an actual understanding of the body, right? That have a knowledge of all of these things work together. Because if you have one symptom, it's not just, hey, take this pill because you're bloated. It's a series of symptoms that are going on in your body, because everything that you put in your mouth, food or liquid, is going to impact your body in some way. And I love that you touched base on the blood sugar, you touched base on hormones, because it will regulate that. Stress and anxiety will change your body.
Yeah.
So
the thing is, we come into these hormonal shifts in our late 30s, early 40s. And we can be experiencing these hormonal shifts, even if we automatically think, oh, perimenopause, my periods are going to change.
Yeah.
We can have perimenopause symptoms years before we even see anything change with our cycles. Now, one of the biggest challenges is that these challenges happen at the busiest times in our life. So our late 30s, our early 40s, moving into our 50s, we've got more responsibilities than we ever did. Business, professional, financial, we're taking on more. You have 1 million kids. I luckily don't have any kids. We balance that out. We both run our own businesses. So these changes, we want to be at the peak of our performance and how we feel and our energy levels and our cognitive function. We want to be at the peak in these decades, but our body is trying to make us do something else. And I think that's why it can get so challenging as well.
Okay, so oh my goodness, we've got
so much to talk about.
Series 1, because these topics are important, and I do feel they intertwine, right? I feel like it isn't just fix this one thing and you're going to feel better. Believe me, we would be billionaires if it was that simple.
Right.
But our goal is, like, as people are listening to this, it's just, I want you to feel good. Right? If we feel good, we're going to move better. We show up better at home, children, spouses, work, right? The self-worth kicks in. Something is wrong with me. Why can everyone else do it? And so to tackle each of these topics, I'd love to kind of continue with what you're talking about with the perimenopause and menopause. So help me and help everyone listening understand first, age range of when perimenopause might start, and tell us the symptoms, because like you and I have talked about this. Like first thing I noticed is I went to, like, I don't know, scratch my chin or something, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? It was like a coarse little dark hair. I've never had that.
Oh, I have one.
Me.
I call her Hillary. I have one.
Oh, okay, I've got my four, so I need to come up with a few more names. I'd be like one for each child. I'm like, you did this to me. But I
Yeah.
immediately told my girlfriend, and I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, do you have these? She goes, oh yeah, that's perimenopause. I'm like, I am growing chin hairs.
What?
Nothing's wrong.
Right.
But we don't talk about that stuff because it's odd. But if women know, okay,
Yeah.
not just me, I have put on pounds. My body fat percentage is up, and I swear I'm doing some of the same things. And then when I step back, I'm like, actually, no, I'm not. So let's talk about that.
Mm.
But can you share roughly the age when this starts, symptoms they can watch for? But I love how you always talk about let's watch for as they're coming, and we plan preventatively. It's like knowing an
Yeah.
earthquake's coming or a tornado or whatever natural disaster, and you're like, I
Right.
can get ready for this. This is how we're going to equate menopause. But it's not a bad thing, right? When we understand,
No.
we know how to prepare for it, it can be a beautiful thing, but I think we don't know those tips. So tell me, how should someone prepare for something that if that can be hard emotionally, right? It
Yeah.
can rock our system. What are things we should do to prepare for that so it's easier and not seen as such a negative thing?
So, as I say, I work mostly with clients 40s, 50s, 60s. I love it when a client comes to me in her 20s because I'm like, brilliant. Let's prepare you for perimenopause. And they're like, what? I'm like, no, kind of joking, but if we can get everything balanced and optimized as early as possible, it's going to make those decades even easier. And I think that's why maybe someone, like you and I, who we've done that hard work of balancing our blood sugar, getting our protein intake. I wish I had your dedication to strength training. I don't. I get it done. I hate it, but I get it done. So the more we can optimize those things, and it's like planning for anything, let's talk, finances right now. The US is in economic turmoil, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
But if we just stay steady, save our money, look after all of those things. So perimenopause is just the same thing. So anything after the age of 35, we consider perimenopause.
Okay.
So perimenopause, so anything before the age of 35 is a different condition. Anything after the age of 35, we call perimenopause. Now, perimenopause lasts for most women between 7 to 10 years. Now, we say perimenopause as if it was one thing, but there's lots of different stages of perimenopause because you're going to have different changes. You and I'm 44, I think you're 45. We're in those earlier stages of perimenopause. We're going to have very different symptoms to someone listening to this who is 51 as maybe in the later stages of perimenopause. So we often think of our menstrual cycles changing as the first part of perimenopause. Now, our cycles can change for so many reasons: stress, thyroid, all of those things. So your periods changing is actually a slightly later stage in perimenopause. We might have things like brain fog. We might have things as in less blood sugar balance. We might start to notice hair thinning. We might start to notice that our libido goes down. This was one of the biggest things for me. My temper would go like that. I didn't have any patience whatsoever. Things that just used to just like, I'm pretty easygoing.
Yeah.
Things that used to not bother me really bother me. My anxiety went through the roof. Now, these can be related to other things, and they absolutely are as well, but they're also part of perimenopause. So lots and lots of things can happen before we even start to see a shift in our menstrual cycles. A big thing for me was I knew that my body was getting softer, but I kind of didn't want to. But I was also less sedentary, wasn't working out as hard. And I was at a training and I got it was close enough to being a DEXA scan, and my body fat percentage had gone whoop, and my
Yep.
lean muscle mass had gone whoop. And I was like, oh shit. Because
And it
I
happens
saw it
so
in black,
fast.
and it happened so fast. And you know what? My weight was exactly the same to the pound. I have for the last 10 years weighed exactly the same to the pound. But I always say to my clients, I'm like, when I was at my heaviest, I was at my leanest. And when I'm at my lightest, I'm at the higher body fat percentage. And let's call a spade a spade. Higher body fat percentages are damaging to health.
Mm-hmm.
So for me at that stage, that was a wake up call to, okay, what you've been doing, ticking the boxes, isn't going to work. And B, I actually spoke to a doctor and got on hormone replacement therapy as well, because one of the things for me is that all of my levels were low. Now, I knew my estrogen and progesterone were low because I'd been to my OBGYN. and again, I feel like this could be another podcast,
Yeah.
but my OBGYN had said, you're not having any of the vasomotor symptoms of menopause. So these are things we typically think of as, hot flashes, night sweats, et cetera, et cetera. We're not going to give you medication. So those symptoms tend to come in the later stages of perimenopause. So I found concierge medicine doctor who was like, no, we did 18 vials of blood. She did comprehensive lab work. And now I'm on testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone.
So let's talk about that for just a sec, because people do
Yeah.
solutions, right? Because they're like probably thinking, I have these symptoms. I want to feel better. With the testing, I went and had mine tested also, and I get the numbers and I'm like, great. What does that mean? Does that
What
explain
now?
any of my
Yeah.
symptoms? So do you mind taking a second and encouraging women, maybe at what point do we get tested? Do you encourage, because everyone says, should I get on something or not? Are there other symptoms with it? What's important, what's not important? Kind of with that testing hormone piece real quick.
Yeah. So I think it's so important to know that it is different for everybody. So what works for me is going to be different for you than different to all of your listeners.
Good to remember.
That's number one. The most important thing is to find a practitioner that listens to you and that works with you. Now, this could be anyone from your doctor to your nurse practitioner to your OBGYN to your endocrinologist. It varies because different medical practitioners look at things in different ways. So, for example, I asked my OBGYN to run my hormone panel, but she didn't run all of them. She didn't run testosterone because I wanted to get that. Because I knew from my age and what I know, I was like, let's do the hormone panel. So really, if your doctor won't run that, your OBGYN will run it. Now, we looked at those and we saw that my estrogen and progesterone were in perimenopause levels. I knew that, but they weren't willing to do anything about it until I was having really severe perimenopausal symptoms. Now, me knowing what I know, I was like, no, hang on a second. I want to get ahead of this. And not just am I experiencing symptoms that were, they were annoying, but they weren't life destroying. But I know that I'm a smaller person. I'm 5'1.5". Like I know that I'm at risk of things like lower bone density, osteopenia, osteoporosis. I wanted to get ahead of this, knowing how beneficial hormone replacement therapy can be for my 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, etc. But I go to a concierge medicine doctor because my normal PCP, endocrinologist, OBGYN won't prescribe these things for me. But I work with her in depth. I know what I'm doing. She knows what she's doing. So it can be a choice. But I will say, before you even take that step, none of those hormones would work for me if my diet wasn't dialed in, if my training wasn't dialed in, if I wasn't managing my sleep and I wasn't managing my stress.
Okay.
So I like testing. I think we should all be getting regular testing done anyway. But if you get tested, you might not find a practitioner who will give you that prescription. And even if you do get that prescription, it is not just like any prescription, any medication, GLP-1s, all of them. They're not a magic cure unless you're doing all the lifestyle modifications as well.
So let me recap. For one, tell people listening what a concierge doctor is.
Yeah, so a concierge doctor, you can find, some of my clients go to their PCP and they get amazing service.
Yeah.
They're testing everything. It is the Wild West in terms of your practitioner, what your insurance covers, et cetera, et cetera. So you might find a functional medicine doctor. My doctor is actually a doctor of osteopathy. She works with, she's part of Dr. Gabrielle Lyons' practice. So that's how I know her.
Yeah.
So she took about an hour when we first met. She ordered 18 vials of blood for me. We tested everything. So I use that word concierge medicine for her. Now she's not covered by insurance.
Yeah.
Some of my testing is covered by insurance, some of it isn't. Some of my medication is covered by insurance, some of it isn't. So this is a whole, it takes time and patience to work your way through all of this. So even with that, yeah.
Oh, so sorry. I love what you say there, because I think you've hit that of no body is the same, just like you said earlier. No woman is the same because of a lot of the lifestyle things you mentioned, stress, cortisol, genetics, right? Gut health, all those things will play a part. And so to find someone that listens to you. And so for you, I was the same. I had a lot of issues last year. just massive stress from a divorce, and I was so inflamed and wrecked. And I went to my doctor, and it was just like literally, he's like, "Here's a pill or two. You might be depressed," and I'm like, "I'm not depressed. I'm
No.
swollen by 12 pounds. Nothing feels the same." And it was like,
Yeah.
this, I want to know what's going on inside of me. And so I like the fact that if you are someone that feels like, listen to your gut, if there's more going on that I need to figure out, which is what I knew, it was a cascade of issues, like this ping pong,
Mm.
this to this to this, find a
Yeah.
doctor, like you did. And that's the same with me. Mine's not a regular PCP either. And it was because we did a stool sample, a urine sample, 21 blood tests. And then I got a picture and I was like, oh
Yes.
my gosh, I had no
Yeah.
idea my kidneys and my liver were wrecked. And this was wrecked from stress. And now the gut's,
Right.
and it was just like all these things. And then you pick where you want to work. I know that can be overwhelming for some people. And so that's why I
Yeah.
say, listen to your body. What, not all of us want to have a huge comprehensive look like you and I do.
No.
Some are like, give me one thing at a time to focus on. And so that's why I love
Yeah.
what you say, listen to your body, find someone that meets the needs of where and how much information you want, and then
Right.
come forward.
But I think the big piece of that puzzle is you and I can do something like that because we have a lot of the other things dialed in. And I
Yeah.
think really interesting what you were saying about stress. So last year was also a super stressful year for me. And that came up in my labs as it really impacted my immune system.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you went the bloating, the inflammation route. Mine was like my white blood cell count was really low because stress was really impacting my immune system. So I think that's one thing to think about of it's not going to affect everybody in the same way. But none of these interventions are going to work if you don't have good blood sugar balance, if your cholesterol is off the charts, if you're not sleeping, if you're not managing your stress. Like you have to do the basics first to benefit from any of these advanced methodologies. And the advanced methodologies are not going to work until you've got the basics. And so many people want to jump to, it's funny, I do a lot of corporate wellness. I speak to companies and they ask great questions. And one person on this corporate wellness was like, how do I determine the exact amount of creatine I should be taking for my personal physiology? And I'm like, are you eating protein and vegetables? I wasn't that kind of sarcastic, but that's where we need to start. And then this advanced testing and all of the other fun things can come further down the line, but you're wasting your money unless you get the foundations right.
Okay, so I'm an analogy person. Something you just said,
Mm-hmm.
because this is probably, and I know you can testify this as a coach also, we hear very, very often, as a human, we want to take the path of least resistance. And I speak from personal experience. When I first started my
Yeah.
journey, I was like, what is the very, very easiest thing to start with?
Yeah.
And I thought that would be the dial mover because it's hard to change our habits. It's hard to exercise when we're not motivated. And so I always think of now, years later, I think of like, they share this analogy in all kinds of places, whether you've heard it in business or motivational talks or church or whatever, and they have like the mason jar, some sort of jar, right? And we tend to put
Yes.
all the little stones and the sand in, and then you've got these huge rocks, and you're like, they won't
Big
fit.
rocks.
Silly analogy, but it works. So
No,
our
I
rocks
use it all the time.
have to be in first, and then we
Yeah.
can fill in the little sand, and then everything fits because they all have a place.
Right.
So let's take a second, if you will, and talk about that of like the big boulders, because people will come and say, hey, I need to lose body fat. I'm in perimenopause, da da da. I think I want to do intermittent fasting. And I was like, well, you're tracking your food. You know how much you're eating. And they're like, well, no, but I know intermittent fasting will work. And I was like, you're looking at a pebble this size that will impact this much. And we have a boulder this big. I need to be doing high heart rate, da 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 da. Just walk more. You're getting 2,000 steps a day. So, like you said, I need the exact dosage of creatine. And I'm like, but you're eating 3,000 calories over what you should. So and I've done all of these. So I can laugh about it because I
Yeah,
did
me too. Me too.
one of those. I'm
You
like,
name it. If
that's
it has the
easier.
name, I've tried it. Yep.
Yes. But the
Yep.
reason I laugh about this is because it took me a while to realize none of those things work. So let's talk about what would you say I always call them the dial movers, the big game changers,
Mhm.
because we can do those little pieces of pebbles and sand, but they are going to yield such a small result. And then they lead to us feeling like a failure or everyone else can do it. What's wrong? And I do not want a woman to feel that way.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the big boulders we put in the jar first that are non-negotiables. If these aren't happening, don't even think about the creatine or all these other little things, right?
Yeah.
What would you say like the top? Let's list them, and then maybe we can, because you obviously are not going to change all these at once. It's going to overwhelm somebody.
Yep.
Where would you start if you were me 5 years ago, right? Like utterly clueless, feeling like utter crap. That was what started my whole journey. Is I feel terrible, and I hate it. It was mom guilt was so bad. Foundational rocks in our jar. What do you
Yeah.
think? those would be the biggest dial movers for people that's like, you must start here, then look at the smaller things.
Yeah. So I always say to people, if you are starting your journey, think about what you add in before what you take away,
Great.
because that helps us in both a physiological sense and also in a mental and emotional sense as well. Because I would love to say, don't eat this, 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 and this. Instantly, our back goes up. We go, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. Pass the ice cream.
Yeah.
But if I say to you, if I say, I'm not listening to her. I'm not going to listen to her. I'm going to eat my ice cream, but I'm only going to eat it for 2 hours a day and then fast the rest of the time. So I'm always going to say to people, increase your amount of protein and increase your veggies. So protein and fiber, number one. So mentally, we're thinking about, okay, what can I add in? This feels abundant. And then on a physiological level, we're also helping our satiety hormones, our hunger hormones, we're increasing natural GLP-1s, all of the things that will make the other things easier. Because if you focus on what you're going to take away rather than focusing on what you're adding in, makes it so much harder. We're adding in our protein, we're adding in our fiber. One of my clients calls us putting her suit of armor on. Like she's the woman that 4:47 will roll around and she's in the glass of wine and she's in the chips and she's in the cheese. But when she has our protein and our fiber every meal, she says that feels like putting her suit of armor on. We love an analogy. Yep. So she's not going to go headfirst into those chips, that wine at 5 p.m. in the evening. So number one, up your protein and up your fiber. Do you want me to get specific on those?
Yes, because the old Jess, it's like the old me, the new me.
Yeah.
Because I relate to all of this. My first question would be how much protein, how much fiber? And then anyone listening, don't tomorrow aim to hit that goal. Because if you could, you would, right?
Work.
So we want to ease into that, but tell them where the target should be in time that they should be able to work up to.
Yes. So you're absolutely right. Most of the US population are under eating protein. Women specifically are under eating protein because we all went through the plant-based crazes of the noughties and then
Yep.
So we're all under eating protein. So if I was to say to you, go and eat 140 grams of protein tomorrow, number one, you're going to go, what the hell is 140 grams of protein? And number two, you're just not going to be able to do it. So great place to start is 30 grams at each meal. Now, I don't even expect people to measure things out. They can do, but who's got time for that? Yeah. So I always say to people, when you're thinking about protein, you want your palm and your fingers. Most people are just doing their palm. Not enough. This is going to be about 3 ounces. Take it up to here, or about 6 ounces. So this much of a piece of fish, this much of a piece of chicken, a good serving of good sized protein powder. Absolutely fine to do things like cottage cheese, to do eggs, to do your plant-based proteins. I mean, we can talk about maybe another episode of the podcast is not just talking about protein. The whole thing. Not just talking about protein, but talking about amino acids, because different amino acids do different things. But basics, 30 grams at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The most important of those being at breakfast.
Yep.
It's really easy to do. 30 grams of protein. You can do a smoothie with a great protein powder, veggies, avocado, berries, almond milk, done. Or cottage cheese and scrambled eggs, cottage cheese and turkey bacon, Greek yogurt, protein powder, and berries. If you like to have your carbs in the morning, add some oatmeal, add some protein powder to your oatmeal. Don't make it complicated. But the reason why breakfast is so important is, number one, it mentally sets the tone for the day. So if we've had a good breakfast, we don't necessarily want to mess up during the rest of the day. It also means that our hunger hormones are going to be balanced. So we're not going to be having those 11 o'clock pastry cravings.
Yep.
And then the other thing, getting a little bit deeper into the science, is that if we have at least 30 grams of protein at breakfast, we are most primed to build more lean muscle mass. So it's kind of a win-win-win for breakfast. Mm-hmm. Lunch, I say for people, good, not perfect. Because I don't know about you, but lunch is the one that I never leave time for.
Yeah.
I never,
like in between meetings,
it's on the go. In the car, I have a chopping board lunch, which means it never gets off the chopping board. I just stand in the kitchen eating it whilst I'm replying to text messages. But I always make sure that there's some protein, some veggies, maybe like some seeded crackers or something in there. And then dinner, again, this is a little bit easier. Don't make it complicated. In my house, we live off ground turkey, ground beef, frozen cauliflower rice, sugar-free pasta sauce, rotisserie chicken. Last night's dinner was like corn tortillas, rotisserie chicken, a bag of slaw, and a thing of guac. Like it took not even 5 minutes to assemble. So I think not making it complicated, but aiming for a good serving of protein at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, with breakfast being the most important one. That's going to be a game changer, and you're going to feel the difference like on that day.
So I have two thoughts real quick. One is a question for you, and then one thing I'll just
Mm.
share to help me with the protein because it was hard for me. For one, I didn't even know what was in what has protein in it. I'd
What is
never
protein?
labeled.
Yeah.
And so you've given such great examples. For me, it was always like, hey, how do I build this out? How do I get all these meats? And so because I don't like cooking and I'm busy at 4 kids, single mom, like any of us, right?
Yeah.
It's like planning ahead is not my strength in any capacity. So on a day, I'll cook all at the same time. Like I'll cook some steak, I'll cook a salmon and like 2 chicken breasts. So I just put them all on the stovetop at the same time. I'm monitoring
Yeah.
all of it. I chop it all and it's wonderful. And then season it and I put it in some Tupperwares and it lasts me 2 to 3 days. And it's wonderful because then for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I'll open it and I'm like, what meat do I feel like for breakfast? And that's
Yes.
how I base my first thought. So I'm like, okay, so then with meat, I can do scrambled eggs. I could do a taco. I could mix it with this. I could mix it with this. It could just be standalone. And then the next meal, I'm like, okay, so I had that for my breakfast. I want this for my lunch. And then it's the same rotation. Do I want it in a salad? Do I want it on the side? Do I want it in a taco? Do I want it? And I have a lot of the same variations, but there's like six
Yeah.
different ways I'll cook it. And then dinner. And so I already know there's 6 ways I like to eat it. The meat's all there. I rotate the meats to include, like a lean ground turkey or a shrimp. So try to get a variety. That has helped tremendously. And then it's
Yeah.
varying it in different forms, but I don't have to overcomplicate it or put it in a casserole or I don't know. It's ease for
No.
my brain. Add a healthy, avocado for healthy fat, a side salad, and all those things. And so
Yep.
that was
And you're
kind of
done.
helping me with like the basics because I think, especially online, we see all these beautifully plated dinners, and I was like,
Nope.
I don't know those ingredients. I've never heard
Nope.
those. I can't pronounce them. I don't have time. My kids aren't going to eat those.
Nope.
Just give me a steak and a vegetable, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
So,
Like if I ever make anything, we have the same thing day in, day out. I
yeah,
have a bookshop, like this is all cookbooks.
yeah,
Nope. It is the same thing day in, day out. We vary our proteins, we vary the vegetable, we
yeah,
vary the sauce. Done.
yep.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. If you are thinking about a meal 45 minutes beforehand, that's not going to be a good, that's preparing to fail. I always prep. I have a breakfast smoothie every morning. It's what I love. But for anyone, prep your breakfast the night before. It takes 5 minutes. And then at least even in the morning, I'm thinking about meal prep for my clients. I get them to do something very similar. List out the proteins that you like, list out the veggies that you like, eat those every day. you know,
Yes.
but if you're thinking about, you come home from a busy day at work or you've been to running kids around for sports and it's like 6:45 and everyone's starving, you're not going to make good decisions. That's when you're going to
We
ring
go
for a
through
pizza.
McDonald's.
You're going to go to McDonald's. You're going to throw something in the microwave. And of course you are. So that preparation piece is so, so huge, however you choose to do that.
Yeah. So you also said something that I loved. And this was a big game changer for me because it didn't even cross my mind because I believe what I'm told, right? They're a company, they're the food I'm eating. Why would they lie to you or not explain it, right? I remember you shared once, and you touched on it now with breakfast, that I understand now. I've gone heavily into blood sugar and what carbs do for you, how to eat them, the rotation, what it does, because
Mhm.
that explained a lot of symptoms that I was having. And then some resistance with stubborn body fat that couldn't go away. That's literally probably a whole nother. In fact, I'd like to do a whole nother hour with you on just talking about sugar cravings because I think sugar and carbs are a huge piece for people. But at least with what we're
Yeah.
talking about, will you just touch on breakfast? Because
Yeah.
everything you listed is exactly what I eat, but I didn't used to. I used to start my day, and I thought this was so healthy. I would start my day with frosted mini wheats because I love the texture
I
and
love
the
frosted
they're
mini wheats.
so
Oh
good.
my
It's like
God. And
my
ice
favorite
cold
cereal.
milk.
Yes. And
Cereal is the
then
one thing me and my husband talk about all of the time. It's like, what cereal would you have? Frosted mini wheats are definitely up there with
yes.
ice cold 2% milk.
Yes, 2%. That's exactly what we had. And if it wasn't that, it was Lucky Charms because the kid in me was always there.
Uh,
And I'm like, well, there's grains. And then I'd have a glass of orange juice, right? And then, but I felt like crap. I was hungry 10 minutes later. I was irritable, but I didn't understand. I just liked the taste. So then I switched to a white bagel with like cream cheese and raspberry jam. And that was no joke, like 600 calories. And I started putting on body fat. And I was like, I don't understand. I'm eating a bagel. Bagels are healthy. And then
right.
I switched it to like a different type of bagel, but something else different on top. And I realized I was just having straight carbs first thing in the morning, no protein because I didn't necessarily understand that. I didn't want to take the time to cook it, blood sugar spiking, and then dropping, and then hungry again, overeating. But they tell you those are breakfast foods. It's a breakfast food. I'm going to eat it. So will you
No.
help? Now I have a savory. Everything you said, it's eggs, meat, something of that nature, which is
Yeah.
why I'm so grateful you listed those. Help women understand why those foods aren't great first thing in the morning and how to balance that and why you and I are educating people and teaching what I sadly don't have frosted mini wheats as often. Because ultimately, how will that make them feel better and be able to honestly lose more body fat because they're going to eat
Yeah.
less snacking and insulin resistance?
So this podcast is not sponsored by Frosted Mini Wheats, by the
No,
way.
they're just so good.
That's so good. Okay, so we want to think foods for breakfast, not breakfast foods.
Okay, that's an excellent point. I can
So
remember that.
foods for breakfast, not breakfast foods. Your body doesn't know what time of day it is. Marketing has made breakfast foods, not foods for breakfast. Also, they're quick, they're easy, and they're delicious. Like if we think about all of our breakfast favorites, they're delicious. You and me waxing lyrical about frosted mini
Yep.
wheats. But what's going to happen is you have that spike of carbs, your blood sugar goes up, your hunger hormones, your satiety hormones go right down, and all of the hormones that say, I'm hungry, I want to eat, I want sugar, et cetera, go up. And then your blood sugar is going up as well. So literally we get on that blood sugar roller coaster straight away when we're having that cereal, when we're having that bagel. You know, you think about like, cereal, 2% milk, bagel, OJ. Like that is a blood sugar disaster.
And that's breakfast. That's what I ate for
That's
years.
breakfast.
You see everybody eat.
It's what the kids get served at school. Yeah. So no, those are very, very highly processed foods. No protein, no fiber. So you're going to be hungry within 10 minutes. You're going to feel cranky. They're not going to fuel your brain. They're not going to keep you feeling full. And you're going to make worse choices throughout the day. So if we can include protein in that, protein and some fiber, then what we're going to do is we're going to smooth out that blood sugar balance. It's going to put your body into fat burning rather than fat storage mode. And then we're also going to help the cravings for the rest of the day as well. Now, we can go, my husband's like you, he has like savory, savory, savory for breakfast. So turkey, bacon, eggs, cottage cheese,
That's exactly.
leftovers from the night before, whatever that is in the fridge that we have, that's what he's going to have. Now, personally, I've never been able to get out of the habit of a sweet breakfast. And I say that because I don't eat any sugar. But this is why I'll do a smoothie with some berries, and that feels like breakfast to me. Or I might do some Greek yogurt with some protein powder or some hemp seeds, some berries, some chopped nuts. It feels a bit more breakfasty.
Yes.
So eggs, people are very used to eating eggs for breakfast. So if going to my husband had ground beef, salad, and walnuts for breakfast this morning. If you're like, nah, it's not going to work for me, eggs are a great option. Turkey bacon, add some berries, do a smoothie, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. You can kind of meet somewhere in the middle. But just the most important thing is that we've got that protein in there and then we've got that fiber in there too.
That's amazing because it's how you want to feel for the rest of the day. And I think you nailed it is we have these ideas of what breakfast foods are and what's acceptable to eat at
Yeah.
breakfast. And depending on how early you get up, like, I mean, there are times when I leave, I'll do like overnight oats that actually I
Yeah.
found is a package that's healthy with no artificial sweeteners. I was so excited to find like a package that I can put them in with. I use lactose-free, fat-free milk, and it's 13 grams of protein and
Yeah.
20 grams of my oats. And so I have a 33 gram and it fills me up, slow digesting. I feel full for hours. So then I'm not snacking,
Yeah.
snacking. But sometimes when I'm working out in the morning, I'm like, I don't want to feel that way. So then I adjust it to eat something else. And so every morning doesn't have to be the same. I think you have to figure out what works for you. If, like you say, a smoothie works better for you, you know how to balance the fiber and the protein in that. It's getting out of the mold of these are breakfast foods and thinking of what at this time of day with how I'm feeling fuels me the best, works for me. And I think it's kind of just the paradigm we get in the framework of like it has to fit in this, but to your point, it doesn't. It's what
Yeah.
works for you and sets you up for success. And so I like the convenience of my overnight oats because it's just easy. But then when I'm home, yeah, I have always like peppers and onions cut up in a Tupperware and just rotate, every 2 to 3 days. So I pull those out, I pull my meat out, I pull my eggs out. It's a very heavy, dense breakfast.
Yeah.
But days that works versus my quick grab and go. So tell me, because I think a lot of people relate to smoothies, but it's all high sugar. Tell me, what do you do in your smoothie that you could recommend for those that want a light breakfast, but not a heavy one like the oat shake?
Yeah, so I do great quality protein powder, either a great whey protein or a great grass-fed beef protein. Plant protein powders can be a little bit higher inflammatory, they're harder to digest. They don't have the amino acid makeup as our whey protein or our beef protein. If you are a vegan, there's a protein called a chocho protein. A company called Lacuna does it. That's least inflammatory. But if you are vegan, then I would suggest topping up with some amino acids. So maybe an amino acid powder or a leucine powder, because then you're going to get the right balance of amino acids to balance out your blood sugar and promote that lean muscle synthesis. You can add some collagen powder in there. Now, I always add my veggies, so I just do baby spinach and zucchini. Doesn't taste of anything, adds thickness. And then I'm going to do some kind of a powder, maybe flaxseed, chia seeds, psyllium husk, something like that. Give it some thickness. Then I do either a quarter of an avocado or a tablespoon of almond butter, depending how hungry I am. Sometimes I do both. Protein powder, I like to have something naturally sweetened with some stevia, maybe some vanilla extract, throw some cinnamon in there, and then add some frozen berries. Now, I know that sounds like a lot. I have a NutriBullet. I prep them in my NutriBullet tub the
Mhm.
night before, literally just throw it all in, and then I blend it in the morning. It takes minutes, not even minutes.
So that's good. So you put it in the container the night before when we've got more energy, we're awake, and then you blend it the next morning.
Exactly. So it goes in like I do it when I'm prepping dinner. So if I'm chopping things for dinner, I'll do it. I do the same recipe all of the time. It takes me 5 minutes to make. Put it in the thing in the morning, take it out, blend it, and I'm good to go. And it takes less than a minute.
See, and I love you think of because when I think of a smoothie, I think of like Jamba Juice, where it's a
Yeah.
ice cream or like a really sweet yogurt base,
Yeah.
and then it's like lots of fruit. So the carbs are through the roof, and it's not that I mean, there's great micronutrients in fruits. I get that, but the amounts of sugar that come with it, frozen. I mean, it removes the fiber. It's going to block the blood, jack your blood sugar levels up.
Yeah.
So I think it's reframing what a smoothie can be because your
Yeah.
smoothie will help you feel better, function better, and it tastes good because you choose things that you'd like to put in there. And then you have the berries, which I feel like are some of the best fruits to have
Yeah.
first thing in the morning.
And
And
then I throw in, yeah, and then I throw in my collagen, I throw in my creatine, I throw in anything else because I think sometimes that's the thing that we get really overwhelmed with, like, oh my God, I need a fiber supplement. Now I need to take my creatine and I might need to take my collagen and I might need to take my colostrum and all of the things. Remember, those are not the big rocks, but I throw everything into a smoothie and I know I'm getting it for the day.
yes, yep. So it can be easier because I think that's what I'd like people to know because this is what helped me is it's just those small, simple steps, right? There's so many things we haven't touched base on, a macro tracking or intermittent fasting or heart rate levels, to see the changes we want, but we can start with some of the basics that I don't like the word fuel, but that give your body what it needs optimized, right? So it can
Yeah.
run feeling good because I feel like everything's better if you feel good, right?
Yeah.
Um, so if we can circle this back around then with anybody, these things are good for everybody, right? Because there's times
Mm,
none of us feel great, but especially 20s and 30s preparing for menopause, what our bodies are going to go through. Those of us that are beginning it, like you and I, those of us that might be in it, all of the things, the building blocks that will help prepare us, help us maintain, feel better, reverse, right? Sometimes when we're in it, so that we feel better, right? Because that's the biggest thing. People just want to feel good, look good, move good, better, stronger, healthier. One would be nutrition. What would be the one movement piece that you'd say if you're in this? Because ultimately they say, I don't feel good and I'm putting on weight. So all of these things are going to help feel better and lower body fat just because we're making better choices. We're eating better things. What would be the movement piece? Would that be steps, strength training, cardio? What would you suggest
can
someone should?
I have two?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Share.
Strength training and walking. Strength training and
Those are
walking
my two.
without a doubt. I we don't need to be doing cardio.
Yep.
Look at your heart rate when you're lifting heavy weights. Like my heart rate goes through the roof when I'm lifting heavy weights. Now, if you like to do cardio, if it helps you release stress, fantastic. I never take that away from any, my
Yes.
clients that come to me and they're doing 4 or 5 45-minute runs a week. I'm like, can we do two half an hours?
Yeah.
Sure. I always say like your strength training and your walking is your protein and your veggies. Those are your non-negotiables. Strength training, minimum 3 times a week, ideally 4. If you are just starting out, your big muscle groups. If you have never strength trained before, you don't need to be doing arms and abs day. You should be squatting, you should be lunging, you should be doing rows, push-ups, pull-ups. Done. 3 times a week to start with, move to 4 if you have the time. And then the walking. I walk minimum of 7,000 steps a day. I don't do any cardio. My resting heart rate is 51 beats per minute, which is like, I'm so proud of that. Like, it's like elite athlete level. And I do not run. Like, I don't like running. I feel like my knees hurt when I run. My boobs jiggle. I feel like my face is falling off. Like, I don't
I
like
can't
it.
breathe, shin splints.
Like, it
It's not
just
my
like
thing.
to be that gazelle in that matching cute outfit in the headphones and the no. I'm a sweaty middle-aged woman with my boobs bouncing around thinking this is hell. How do I make this stop? So I don't do it. And I don't need none of my health markers say that I need to do cardio. So protein, veggies, strength training, walking.
Yes, amen. It's like the mic drop. This is why I had you on because everything you just say, if I were to pull my audience of like, what are the things Jess harps on constantly? It is walk a minimum of 7,000 steps. Again, working up to these things, strength train minimum 3 times a week. And exactly what you said, protein and fiber, because the other things will fall in place when you can get the building blocks. Because we're talking about the building blocks. Then the next question is how much of the building blocks, right? Well, we start first with get used to doing it. And then we'll talk about serving sizes, calories, tracking the
Yeah.
macronutrients is when tracking macros, which can be a great tool for some people, but it's just a measurement of your habits. So I
Yeah.
don't care about this number of the habit. I want to know that the habit is okay. The number will fall in line when we get control of the habit. And so
Right.
perfect. Everything you said is exactly as I say it. And so if people listening can remember that also, especially menopause time period, right? We want to lower stress as much as we can, get the cortisol down. And so doing massive amounts of cardio, which is what we think will burn off calories or lose body fat, is just hijacking the whole system. So
Yeah.
especially in these age groups, lower the cardio to as minimum as possible, strength train to maintain muscle mass and all the other millions of reasons. And then your daily steps will hit all that you need. And I agree with you what you say. Like if you like cardio because you're training for something, then that's a totally different type of person.
Yeah.
If you like it because it's a stress relief, just don't do it as often, knowing that it helps you mentally, but it's not the greatest for the body as far as raising cortisol. And it's just understanding, I think, what we do impacts the body in a certain way. And not all the times do we understand the implications of things that we do. And so it's just figuring out for my body what do I need, what works best, and then trial and error. And so if you can focus on all those things that you said, protein, the veggies, right? Fruit with fiber, those two things are great. Then we'll talk about,
Yeah.
you can look at serving sizes, work up to walking, create massive, great way to create a deficit, especially walking like 10 minutes after a meal.
Yeah.
Great for digestion, and then looking at strength training. So yes, I am the total nerd. Because it's like lifting weights, like that's where I get my anxiety out. That's where, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've cried in the gym working through like divorce, single mom.
Yeah.
We all have things we're dealing with. And strength training just, it pushes you to do something you don't want to do. You have to learn how to do properly. Your body, you're just so proud of yourself for doing that. And then it's like, okay, if I can do these things here, it's crazy how it translates to other things. And so I like to look at like your nutrition and what you eat. Daily steps kind of controls the size of the body, how you feel with the body. But our exercise and workouts are like the shape of the body and how the body moves. And I love that
Yeah.
they all come together as a partnership to work kind of in one. But I think it's just you hear so much noise online, right? So much noise. This one thing worked for so and so. This one thing worked for this person. And an influencer or a coach that you really like and respect says one thing, but then you hear something from someone else. And so if we can
Yeah.
focus on these boulders, right, in our glass jar,
Yeah.
you're going to see so
But
much.
they're not sexy. They're not like
No,
they're not sexy. They're not quick fixes. They're
no.
not easy. Like I am the person who hates strength training. So I'm married to someone who's a strength and conditioning coach. He's now a professor of exercise science. He loves going to the gym and he will be 2.5 hours in the gym and he loves it. I am someone who hates strength training, but I cannot not do it because I know how good it is for me. So
But it
I
is.
will get through and I will hate every rep and I will get angry, but I'll still do it because I can't not do it. So that's, I don't make people do things like if you don't eat like broccoli, don't eat broccoli. But I don't care whether you like strength training or not, you
Yeah.
have to do it.
It is. It's a non-negotiable. If you think of where do I want to be in 5, 10, 20 years, it's kind of like my life insurance policy. Because your body
Yeah,
has, you have to be able to lift and maintain and stabilize your body, or quality of life is horrific. And
yeah,
so getting up and off a toilet or a chair or, moving and not worrying about falling and bracing yourself. And all the studies show such a drastic difference with walking movement and strength training and quality of life. And so it's one of those things I think you and I can't quit harping on. Like you said, if you don't want to do it, you don't like to do it, there's days I don't want to do it and show up and I alter it. And it's probably maybe a good thing to end on is like the all or nothing or perfectionist, right? If I can't get in and get a 45-minute workout, then I'm not going to do it. So
no,
I go and I'll end up, if I can squeeze 15 minutes in, it's more about the showing up and I did something and I got the movement in. It's that kind of day, A for effort, and then the next day. Because we're doing this till we're dead, right? I will be
yes,
like
yeah,
98 trying to air
yep,
squat because I know I need to. So you're going to have days where you don't feel like it. You're going to have days where you don't want to show up. And because you're doing it till you're literally almost dead, you're great. You got plenty more you can pick up on it and
yep,
continue
yeah.
with. And so
And
just
most
don't
of the
think,
time, we dread it when we go into it. And then once you're in it, the endorphins kick in. You might be listening to a good podcast. Like you're like, okay, this isn't like now I'll get it done.
yeah.
So I will, unless I am exhausted, I will always make myself start it. And usually I will finish it. And if I don't, that's okay because as you said, we have so many years ahead of us and we don't want to wait until something happens. We don't want to have a wake up call because when you have that wake up call, it's too late. Last year, my mother-in-law broke her ankle and then my sister-in-law's mother-in-law broke her hip. And they're both women in their 60s and they were wake up calls for me to be like, okay, I don't want to break a bone. And also, if I do, because accidents happen, I want to be able to recover super, super quickly.
Yeah.
We are all going to live so much longer. We're going to live into our 90s, into our hundreds. But let's think about our health span rather than just our lifespan.
Yeah. It is, you have a choice. And there's genetics, definitely we can't overlook genetics, but it's like
Yeah.
it's so many things. And so I love to kind of wrap where you started is in this, I mean, there's so many ways we can take all these things, but at least with the hormones and the perimenopause and menopause, things we all are going to incur, endure. So whether we're now in it, past it, we've all got it. So the attitude of this isn't a bad thing because the more we know, the better prepared we are. Prepare when you're younger, right? Just like you said, 20s and 30s, the building blocks. So what do we mean by prepare? It's like you said, eat the right foods, limit sugar as much as you can. I have a treat every day. It's the best part of my day. So I'm not saying don't have a treat, but it's
No.
4, 5, 6 treats. It's those. So right, reduce sugar if we can, still leaving a delicious treat per day. Start a breakfast with something different to set yourself up for success. Add more fiber. And I love your concept of we're not talking about cut out, cut out, cut out, cut calories diet. It's adding to with the abundance mindset. I thought that was beautiful. That was such a great way to say it. And then the movement, strength train and walk. That's literally what I do. That's why I have my app. I will tell you how much to eat and tell you how to move. So it makes it easy. So there's lots of resources out there if you feel overwhelmed. That's what you specialize in is all of the nutrition, all the things we'll meet again. We'll continue to cover all these topics.
Yeah.
And so with menopause, if you're in it, like we say, I don't feel great. How do I get rid of this belly fat, right? Everything that you just said are things we have to focus on. So ask yourself if this is where you feel like you are, how much are you eating, which is a thing we've got to look at. If you've got belly fat, I mean,
Yeah.
you got to look at how much we're eating. I do understand that. But also the movement, because we tend to under move because we're tired and hormones and things.
Yeah.
So track your steps, see where you are, look how much protein you're eating, how much fiber you're eating, some of those basic things. And then we'll go into hormones, da 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 da.
Yep. Because all those things influence your hormones anyway. We talk about hormones as if they were sex hormones, estrogen,
Yeah.
testosterone, progesterone. Our master hormones are our insulin and our cortisol, our hormone of blood sugar balance, and our stress hormone. If
Mhm.
you don't have those optimized, if you don't have those under control, you can't do anything about any of the other ones.
Yes.
So even if you are in the absolute throes of perimenopause, the hot flashes, the night sweats, the brain, if you're even the absolute throes of that, we're still going to start with balancing your blood sugar and managing your stress.
Yep.
Because I can't do anything about any of those other things unless you have those big rocks in place.
Yeah, and that's what's killed me this last year. It's been so very eye-opening because until you experience something, it's just like, oh, that happens to other people. But then I'm like, crap, my symptoms are those. And so it's opened my eyes. So we'll have to stay tuned then for let's meet again. And I would love to cover those two things. I mean, we could do a whole hour on stress because I don't think people realize stress and cortisol, I mean, it's from simple as not sleeping enough, eating or consuming too much caffeine between coffee and soda,
Yeah,
energy drinks, like all those things, cardio. We think stress, like, oh my gosh, my spouse, my work, my kids. But there are
right. No.
so many things that start with breath work. Number one, breath work.
Yep.
If you're not doing breath work, then the whole cascade, central nervous system, calming that down. So let's chat again because I think each of those things we could help with. Tell me, I think I'd love to end with how can you help them in the sense of I know that nutrition is one of the reasons I follow you. So I encourage everyone to follow you.
Mm,
You've got great posts and content explaining the nutrition piece. Um, Sugar, I think, is probably the biggest thing with nutrition that I hear from people. And I know you've got something that
yeah.
you offer to help people. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I've offered online programs for years, but I've always known that there was something that I wanted to start people with, but I could never quite find out what that was. And then the noise around GLP-1s came in, and I realized how much people were struggling with cravings and food noise. Now, I totally get that. I used to be addicted to Diet Coke and Kind Bar, but I haven't been in that world for a long time. So listening to people talk about how much the food noise affected them was like, okay, we need something before we even start talking about macro counting, optimizing your antioxidants, all of that. We need to start quietening the food noise. We need to get over this hump of using sugar for energy, these sugar cravings, this blood sugar roller coaster. So now I have the Cravings Cure, which is a 7-day program designed to cure your cravings at the root cause. And really, our cravings come from our brain, our hormones, and our gut. So we go into the science of all of that with tools, and there's breathwork exercises and how to improve your gut health to stop the cravings. But also, it has a 7-day meal plan, recipes for vegans through to omnivores, supplements, everything that you need. And then you can move into whether you want to go into a metabolic health program, a skin nutrition program, a gut health program. But we've got to get to that root cause, and that is that sugar, that is the refined carbs. And it's not just telling people to eat them, because if it were that easy, we wouldn't be where we are with obesity, poor health, et cetera, et cetera. So the Cravings Cure is where I really recommend people to start with my work. They can go on to anything else, but it's really tackling those sugar and refined carb cravings at the root.
Okay. I know I appreciate that. I think that's something that I know myself. That's what I've been battling this last year. Because I eat healthy. I really watch the content of my food. I would choose like the Diet Dr. Pepper over the Dr. Pepper because I'm like, well, I'm not getting the sugar, right? It was artificial sweeteners destroyed my stomach and all of my testing,
Oh,
stool samples
the
and blood,
worst.
everything came back and it was like everything's out of whack. And I've been on this whole journey of understanding sugar and artificial sweeteners and what it does to my body. And so that's why
Mm,
I'm excited to be able to share this with people because I think I don't know. That doesn't happen to me. It's what we tend to think. It can't be that, right? But it is. And so we've got to be very
it
aware
is.
that we all consume sugar in some capacity. It wrecked me last year. So now I know, crap, this can impact anybody. So yeah, I'll encourage
Yeah.
people to share those. I'll share the links to that. I know you have a discount code you're offering. I'll share that in the links also
Yeah.
to be able to help people just feel better. And that's why I love talking to you because we just want women to feel better, but you have to have the tools to know how to do that.
Yeah.
Don't give up. Keep learning. We'll keep sharing on these topics to help, guide you along the way. Obviously, it's easy to hear what to do, then implementing is harder. That's why we have programs they can join and learn more.
Yeah. That's our job. Yeah.
I help
And
with
I
group.
think, and I think both of us, we've been on both sides of it. So
Yeah.
we've been on the side where we haven't felt great. We've had that weight gain. We've had that tiredness. It affects your gut health. It affects your mood. But we also know how good it can be on the other side. And I think once you know how good it can be on the other side, you get evangelical about it. And you're like, but I want everyone to feel this way. But
Because
I
it's a
want,
game changer.
because it's such a game changer. And so I think that is where, we're women in our mid 40s. We've been through it all. We're going to go through it again. But we know how, this is why we're so passionate about it, because we know how good it feels on the other side of it.
Amen. My ultimate goal is if I can get a woman to feel better, she's not going to feel as much like a failure, right? If we feel crappy,
Yes.
it's like, I can't stick to da plan. That's why I feel crappy. I'm not doing as good as so and so down the street. That's why I feel crappy. And if I can help one woman feel like she's okay and she's enough and that she has worth no matter where she is on this journey, um, oh my gosh, like that's my whole goal is just to help someone look in the mirror and feel of worth and not like they're the only one that can't do it. It's just knowing the right tools because I was there crying in the
Yeah.
bathroom not wanting to get undressed in front of people, like all the things that I just let impact me. And it's the tools to know we can always dig out of it. We don't know what to do. And so I'm so grateful for your time in helping. We'll continue to educate all the tools so that we can ultimately help these women feel better and realize they're badass and they can do these things. We just have to know what to do because
Exactly.
there's a lot of noise and we don't want the noise. We want the truth. So you are amazing. Thank you so much. I'll share all the details
Thank you
below
for
so you
having
guys know
me.
everyone knows where to find you. And we'll schedule some more times for all these other different topics. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jazz.